And as it says at our last meeting, and maybe Guy can elaborate a little more, but there's two issues here. One of them is the environmental, which the EPA is working with the rod and gun. And then the other one is the zoning. And that's where building permits come in and such, and that is the town issue. So having said that, Guy, you want to expand on those a bit?
Well, just that when you're dealing with any regulated substance, earlier someone mentioned solar panels. I've been talking about cadmium for 10 years. So, you know, if you have a choice of having lead in your yard or cadmium in your yard, there's an easy answer to that. But the short answer is when you start dealing with federal environmental laws, you start dealing with federal preemption. So the town doesn't have authority to order cleanup of lead or to order compliance with any type of federal order that is issued. For instance, here we have the EPA has issued what's called a consent order, where the landowner has agreed to comply with, make certain changes to the site and comply with certain requirements that the EPA promulgates and approves through the federal rulemaking process. And if they get the consent order, then their violation of that order is within the ambit of the EPA to enforce, not the town. We don't have federal jurisdiction. So I know that the EPA has a consent order that's standing. I know that they've made some determinations about where things stand with the lead remediation. Their goals seem to be, and I can't speak for them, you'd have to speak to them, but their goals seem to be to end the deposition of lead in wetlands and the creek. And their position appears to be that with compliance with the consent order, that would occur. That is separate and apart from what the plan has to look at relative to the zoning application, and my understanding is that the application is substantially different than what was actually submitted months ago. So that's all I would say, is that the town doesn't determine whether or not lead has to be cleaned up or how it's cleaned up. The town in that respect is like any other citizen. It can bring it before it can bring an independent action in federal court if it chooses to, but it doesn't have jurisdiction to make an EPA determination for the EPA.
So we're going to move on to Lynn, and for the record, this normally isn't the practice we do for building permits, correct? But because of the sensitivity and concerns of citizens, we felt it was important that we give some clarity to actually what the plan is and what's going on and what's been proposed. So I'll let Lynn take it from here. And if you can't speak, you want to go on the other side, board members, feel free to do it.
So I'm here to talk about the zoning issue with the rod and gun. I had to make an interpretation of the zoning law. So back in September, they actually brought in a plan, a new site plan with a stormwater control plan. Basically right now they have 2 trap houses over here, and then on this side of the creek they have a pistol range and then a 300-yard long rifle range. Their plan is to swap the 2 trap houses with the 2 rifle range and pistol range. They're going to remove the shooting pavilion and the 2 trap houses, and they're going to build a warming hut and then put the 2 trap houses back. So if you recall, the original plan showed them, this is Rosika and Farrell's house right here. The original plan showed them like shooting like this. They are now shooting into the bank, and thus reducing the footprint of the whole project. So I'm going to read you a couple of page notes here. On September 28, 2018, the Rod and Gun located at 55 Salmon Creek Road in the RA zoning district, the club, turned in a building permit application for a warming hut and 2 trap houses, approximately 10 by 10 each, together with a stormwater and erosion control plan. The plan presented relocation of trap, rifle, and pistol ranges by merely swapping their locations. With swapping the trap, rifle, and pistol ranges, the club will have to build 2 new trap houses and put in a warming hut. At this time, T.G. Miller, the town engineer, is reviewing the stormwater and erosion control plan. So since I wrote this, T.G. Miller has finished their review. Got Dave's comments back today, actually. I forwarded them to Tim Buell, and basically Tim has to get me the notice of intent and the MS4 acceptance form so I can sign it. As I was here tonight, I looked at my computer, and they are here, and I signed it. I just got to forward them to him, and then he will send it to the DEC. Then on October 4th, I asked Scott Hicks, Vice President of the club, for more detail on the size of the existing trap, pistol, and rifle ranges, what they were doing with the existing trap houses and shooting pavilion. On October 10th, I received the revised plan with the size of the existing trap and pistol and rifle ranges, and verification that the club is going to eliminate the existing trap houses, remove the shooting pavilion, and install a buffer along the northern property line. So over here by Tim and Lisa's, they're planning on putting in a vegetative buffer of trees and pine trees, figuring that the trees will come on fast, and then the pine trees will fill it in over time. So I also received the building permit application and have reviewed the Town of Lansing land use ordinance, mainly Article 10, non-conforming uses. And this is my interpretation of the non-conforming use law. So the intent of non-conforming uses, the intent of this Article 10 is to provide for the use of land, buildings, and lots that do not comply with the regulation of this ordinance, and to set forth the circumstances and conditions under such nonconformity may be continued. So in that Article 10, there's like 3 to 4 criteria. So 1001, continuance. Except as otherwise provided in Article 10, the lawful non-conforming use of any land, building, or lot existing at the date of adoption or amendment of this ordinance may be continued even though such use, building, or lot does not conform to the regulations specified for the zoning district in which such land, building, or lot is located unless set forth to the contrary elsewhere in this ordinance. In my opinion of this, the rod and gun was in place in the late 1950s to the early 1960s before there were any town zoning regulations. Therefore, this is a lawful pre-existing non-conforming use. 1001.1. The non-conforming use of land may be expanded or extended so as to occupy a greater area of land unless a variance has been granted. The swapping of the trap, rifle, and pistol ranges will actually take up less total area, 2002, 158,000 square feet less, or 4.64 acres less, are based on engineering drawings such that the site is shrinking and not enlarging. And that's based on all this information. That was one of the things that I'd asked for. They gave us what the new fields were going to be, but they didn't tell us what the existing were. So that was part of getting my determination. 1001.2, the footprint of a non-conforming building may be enlarged, extended, or increased if the lot area, width, and yard requirements set forth in Schedule 2 can be met or an area variance has been granted. The plan shows compliance with the RA zoning setbacks of 15 feet on the sides and rear and 60 feet from the center of the road, and the buildings are not increasing in size. 1002.0, permission to alter or enlarge. Notwithstanding the provisions of section 1001, to the contrary, the zoning board of appeals may, upon written request for a variance, permit the expansion, extension, enlargement, replacement, movement of, or addition to a non-conforming use or building in accordance with the criteria specified in town law, section 267-B. My response to that is the club is not proposing to expand, enlarge, or replace anything. Their proposal is to use a smaller footprint than what they are using now. See reply above 1001-1. It is the opinion of this zoning officer that swapping range locations and thus using the same lands and even a smaller footprint upon such lands does not trigger this standard of review. Plans do not call for use of any portion of their 113-acre parcel that had not already been in use, including for shooting. The club will be using the same land areas after these plans are implemented as were being used for decades. So based on the building permit application plan review, the town of Lansing land use ordinance, specifically Article 10, non-conforming uses, it is my opinion that this is an existing non-conforming use with no site plan, special permit, or ZBA review required. This decision is based on my interpretation of the land use ordinance. And once I receive T.G. Miller's stormwater and erosion control comments and recommendations, a building permit will be issued. However, the stormwater practice will have to be in place before any work can start. As I said earlier, I've already got T.G. Miller's comments back. I've got everything. They're going to send it to the DEC. I issued the permit today with a condition that they can put the silt fence up to help the stormwater control. They can put the buffer in and move or take the pavilion down now, but there is to be no more land clearing such as stump removal or tree removal until I get the DEC approval back. And then also there will be no construction. Like I said, it's purely based on my interpretation of the land use ordinances. And some people will say, well, if you go into Schedule 1, Section 503, land use activities, it will tell you that a shooting club is permitted in the RA with site plan review through the planning board and then also special permit through the town board. But that is for a new club, period, not for this. We did try to bring them in. When they originally came in, they asked what they had to do before we saw a plan. And I did just that. I went right to Schedule 503, or Schedule 1, Section 503, saw what it said, and they were going to do it. And then after they went to the meeting, it got kind of heated, very emotional, and then they kind of stepped back, seek advice, withdrew their application, and then come back with a plan with a building permit application and stormwater. And if you dig back into the ordinance again, Article 10 says they are allowed to do what they want to do. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. Once again, I want to remind everybody that this is, from the town's aspect, this is the zoning concern. The environmental concern is of EPA nature, which they've been working on since 2016.